X-Men 97 is finally back, and we're going to talk about it. So, first and foremost, the OPs change every episode. They gave us a 3 episode first episode, essentially. They dropped all 3 of them on us, and they decided, hey, we're going to get you back. We're going to make you want more by giving you a 2-parter and give you only the first part of that 2-parter, which is why it's a 3-parter. We get little scenes like this in the OP where they show stuff like Wolverine losing his adamantium to Magneto, like in last season, and Storm getting her powers back and finally being Storm again. And so it gives you little tidbits, little tastes of last season, in case you forgot some of the bigger plot points of that season. And it's going to be very important that Wolverine lost his adamantium here in a minute. Having Forge along for this whole quest to make all these time travel devices travel to and fro in the time stream must be incredibly useful. I hope nothing bad happens to Forge because he really is your gateway to and fro. Especially Bishop, who has no idea how this stuff like even works. He just puts it on and goes to work. He doesn't know how to make the thing. I'd probably consider Forge like an Omega level mutant, just because he can like restart society after we all destroy it. And I'm sure if Magneto had Forge up in that Asteroid M, he'd help him make replenishable food sources. He would have at least helped everybody grow potatoes out of their own poop, like in The Martian. But yeah, we got a plan. We got Forge going to the future and Bishop going to the past. Although, considering what they had to go through in the past, I honestly wish it was Forge that went back. It would have saved them a lot of time if it was just Forge. But Beast's already there, so they figure Beast will figure it out. And he does, but it also gets them in trouble later. I'm honestly a really big fan of Bishop's new haircut. This is probably the best haircut he has. I know he goes bald later, but I don't know, something about the short natural hair. I'm feeling it. He also gives me like, I don't know, maybe it's the haircut, but he gives me 50 Cent vibes. Wolverine is here, and he looks kind of like he has a nose. When I saw that he had a nose, definitely for sure, later on, I was like, this is both great and terrible at the same time. Because I like him having a nose. I think him not having a nose was weird and stupid, but I kind of wanted it for the joke, for the memes. I want him to not have a nose. But I'm actually so glad that he does. It's bad enough we have to hear the worst noise in the world when he extends his claws without metal on them. They sound horrible. They sound like so gross and splorchy. Ugh, I can't even explain it. It just sounds nasty. I can't wait for that clean metal to go back on his bones, and I'm sure he can't wait either. Poor dude's going feral. You know what? He has shoes on here too. This is a step up from the comics, where he not only has no nose because he goes feral from no having no metal on his bones, but he just becomes more of a wild animal. And I think it's in Marvel vs. Capcom, one of those Marvel vs. Capcom games, or X-Men vs. Street Fighter, one of those where Wolverine, if he has the bone claws, he's faster. And if he has the metal claws, he's stronger. One or the other. Which makes a lot of sense if that's the case. But if it's reversed, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would he be faster with the metal? He moves super quick here, too. Except, again, the bones are not as durable. So we see him later try to use these things, and they snap right off and hurt his ass something good. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't look like it feels great. To be honest and fair, though, every time Wolverine extends his claws, it doesn't feel good. Imagine stabbing yourself 6 times every time you want to use your abilities. That sounds like it doesn't feel great. Look at this man. He's suffering. I'm also finding it a bit weird that he's more hunched over without the metal than with the metal, because usually that's what's making him hunch over, the weight of the metal. He should be spry, standing up straight. Dude, I bet is so happy he could probably swim in water and not sink. He's having the time of his life, only he's not. He's having a horrible time without the metal. This should be everything he's ever wanted, even though, no, it absolutely isn't. He got too used to that indestructible metal. This is actually why he came to the future. He wants to see Storm, which that makes sense. I get it. And Bishop just goes back to the past because he just has to slap on some braces and bring people back. Forge also has the benefit of being able to grab a lot of new old technology, I guess, to him. He could just grab a bunch of parts from here and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to disassemble this or take this apart and figure out how it works kind of thing and try to figure out Apocalypse's whole thing. So I get why he's in the future. It would have helped Charles and Magneto not get into the mess that they're in. Although Charles and Magneto get into that mess because they're a divorced couple that cannot figure things out. They just will stay arguing. They're constantly playing chess. And it's like, I need you guys to stop playing chess for 5 minutes and realize you're fucking up the whole timeline. Slim and Red are also here in the future, and it's, a good place for them to be, considering they got a boy to teach how to be a soldier, which they actually do a really good job of doing that. They have not very much time to do that, and they do it lickety-split. I'm not sure how much time has passed since they've gotten here up until Forge showed up. Maybe not that long. Wolverine still has a nose, but If they have been here for a longer amount of time, then that means that these two have had an ample amount of time to train their boy up. But I don't think that's how it is. I think that this is like maybe a couple days at least because of the way they talk. Sometimes you just need your parents that you've never met to show up and give you kind words of encouragement. Works almost every time. Gotta love how Apocalypse is like, oh, survival of the fittest, but nobody taught him how to clean up after himself. Like, look at this. When they say survival of the fittest, do they mean that, like, survival from disease because you piled up a ton of corpses in front of your house? Is that part of the plan? Are you trying to make yourself more strong by making yourself immune to, like, plague? Also, oh my god, is that the Blob? I guess somebody finally stopped the Blob. Poor bastard. Much like many evil villains, Apocalypse needs to go to Odin's sleep. And in order to do that, he puts himself into a big sarcophagus. He is nothing without his theming and his iconography. This man puts his face on literally everything. He puts the initial A on everything, which I thought is weird. Why won't you, like, write your name in hieroglyph instead? Like, you're Egyptian. Why are you being so chill about this Latin language? I guess because the Latin language survived, and that means it's the most fit. Morph, thank you so much for bringing the baseball in here. You really did bring the levity we needed at this moment. And also, more levity happens with the baseball later. Honestly, Morph is the best part of this episode. Nathan uses the power of knowing that he's a Summers to escape. And you know, honestly, this is actually a pretty badass scene. And then all of a sudden, they turn on the animation. I was wondering about, like, the animation's a little bit stilted so far. Like, they're not really using it to the best of its potential. And then all of a sudden, you get that Naruto animation where everything looks like, oh, this is where the animation kicks in. It was at this point I knew we were getting something special. Also, great job making the fire in this show look fantastic. It kind of needed to be because, you know, one of your main characters fires her whole thing. And we've just was introduced in the next episode to another character who deals with this particular firepower as well. It's the Phoenix, y'all. It's the Phoenix Force. That's what's going on here. I figure I can at least tell you that. It's pretty obvious by looking at what's going on that it's the Phoenix Force. However, if you're the Phoenix and you saw Jean Grey just sitting over there, what are you still doing with Mother Oxgani? You're like, old news. Jean baby, come back to me. Hey, so this is the coolest fucking shit. Thank you, Morph. I'm so glad that I wasn't the only one annoyed by this dude. By his just sheer presence. Also, because of Morph, we get Thor in this episode. I love seeing different characters drawn up in this style. They look so good. And the animation is so crispy. It makes me think of the, like, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes show, and I'm like, damn, that animation was so goddamn ugly. I really wish it was if you redid it in this animation, it'd be like 1,000 times better. This scene is great because Cable grabs this giant robot gun, and the way he's holding it is very reminiscent to the way he has big ass guns today. And his parents were looked at each other like, ah, I see where he gets his affinity for big ass guns. But the way he grabs this reminds me so much more of the way like Iron Man and War Machine grab their proton cannons from nowhere and start shooting them. Please, if you guys, whoever's making the new Avengers movie with Doctor Doom in it or whatever and the Secret War stuff, if you give Iron Man or War Machine a proton cannon, my world is yours. You could do whatever you want from then on in. I'm gonna be like, yeah, sure, it's great. 10 out of 10 Marvel movie. Just give me the proton cannon in real. Cable gets a big ass gun like this too, but Cable's also known for his cheesy ass pistol laser gun spam. I'm more honestly looking for him to do that in this show than anything else. The Avengers movie isn't even out yet in 1997, but Cable still has his Avengers costume on. He is ready. The thing is, like, you really wouldn't be able to tell who he is outside of this hat, honestly. Like, the people who would know who Cable is would not be fooled by this disguise. Nobody else is this huge. Except for maybe Strong Guy. But he's Strong Guy. And you'd be able to tell that it was him because nobody else has that hair. Bro also shows up with the Avengers costume on, the disguise, Avengers disguise, and a manila folder full of information. Like, bro, you're not concealed. You're not being special ops right now. Everybody in this arcade can tell you're up to something. You just handed this teenager a manila envelope full of suspect information. Something's up here. Whoever thought of this, have him drink out of the little cup. You did a great job. This is hilarious. This is genuinely really funny. They really said, you're gonna love this opening. And guess what? I do. This is incredible. Also, he's wearing the Magneto Was Right t-shirt in this scene. I love that they even did this. They were like, hey, how do we make these events that happen in this opening apply as much as possible to this episode? And they nailed it. They fucking nailed it. I think that they're doing a way better job than, like, say, House of the Dragon is doing with their openings, changing every episode. Even though they're, like, literally making a tapestry over in that show, we only get 1 or 2 events. I guess the only events that are big enough to add into a tapestry. This one, you gotta pause, like, every single scene of it and be like, wowee, the whole time, because wowee! Also, they show you the full backstory of how Archangel got here. I thought that was pretty cool. They didn't need to do that. Looking good though, Archangel. We get Apocalypse and his horsemen over on this side. And you get the X-Men over on this side. Well, what's left of the X-Men, I guess. Cable's X-Men. In between them, though, this girl right here, her name is Pixie. Oh my god, Pixie, hi! And there's Chamber back there. I love that they decided to do this with these characters, but made my heart so happy. They even changed the title card, bro. They didn't have to do this. They didn't have to do all that. Thank y'all so much. You're killing it. You're doing a great job, people at X-Men 97. Welcome to Brazil. It's Carnival. It was so cool to see them here. It's cool to see this represented. How many Brazilians out there thought this was badass? I thought it was cool, and I'm not even from there. I just think it's cool to see stuff like this represented. Professor X, with his, like, morals for 5 seconds, no morals the next, is why we got in the situation we got into in that episode. Here in this episode, we're like, okay, Psylocke is just gonna take this man's information. Like, we don't have time to lollygag, we don't got time to play around, just knock him out, take the information we need. She's not going in there and figuring out all his email passwords or something immoral like that. She's like, I need the information I need, and she's getting out. Charles could always do the same thing, even though he's like, I don't want to go into people's brains against their will, but then you do anyway, bro. We get a cold murder on the beaches of Brazil. And why? Well, because things have to get done. And he's doing this because he is fighting a mission. I understand Jubilee's point. Cable is from a future that is real bleak. And if he feels like he has to do this to make that not happen, he's kind of the boss right now. You don't have to kill any people, but maybe when he starts throwing around guns and stuff, try not to get in his way. You just give Cyclops a couple more years and he's going to be just as bad. In fact, that's how the schism happens, I believe. Wolverine is like, hey, these are children and they deserve to learn how to use their powers and to be children. And Cyclops is like, nah, brother, these are soldiers for the cause, man. Emma had plans. And this is the last thing she wanted to see was Cable. Emma didn't just get rich giving information away. She needs that money for her precious children, the Stepford Cuckoos. Only she, probably set them up in the first place because we see them in a containment cell later. So Emma is rise and grind, and just the moment where she's gonna relax and chill with these two gentlemen, Cable shows up. Awful timing, Nathan. The worst. Haven't your parents taught you anything about... No, I guess his parents wouldn't have taught him about the sock on the door thing. For some reason, they trusted Emma. She may join up with the crew and be all buddy-buddy and be like, I'm part of your squad now. But she's always an asshole. Never forget that. So mutants I recognize off the top of my head. There's my boy Quentin right over there. That's Dust there. She has the ability to turn into dust. Because of that ability, I'm actually honestly so surprised that they got her locked up in here. But I guess the collar keeps her from using her powers. She must have been a slippery one to catch. Polaris was like, y'all ready for a fight sequence? And I was like, yes. And then they gave Jubilee her Weapon X moment where she breaks out of here and shows everybody the full extent of her powers. And she does it listening to her Walkman, Peter Quill style. I was a big fan of that. It reminded me all those times Pietro would do something similar. I wonder if he learned it from her. But I guess in those movies, Pietro's supposed to exist in the 60s, so she probably picked it up from him. She probably heard the rumors that was a dope thing to do and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that shit. She didn't have to hit this man with the armbar, but she did. You can tell she's watching WCW because at the time, WWF wasn't doing anything near close to that. Unless this was about the time that WWF received the Rascals from WCW. Fuck this, we're going to WWF to make more money. But that was mostly a thing happening in WCW because WWF wrestling itself was ass garbage. Homie tries the full Nelson on the mutant with the Heelys in. Anole, we got my boy! I didn't even notice him in the first time I watched this. All that to get a lariat that knocks her clean inside out. She took the Rikishi bump on this one. Damn. The girl with the antlers is Nature Girl. She can talk to animals and I love her. I love this entire class of young mutants, including Blob Herman, who's a blob. Like he's a pink blob with a skeleton inside that you can see. He's right there in the background. I don't know if you can see the pinkness. Another thing that WCW has over WWF, luchadors. You'd never see a head scissors takedown like this in WWF until maybe like the Hardy Boys or something. But this is pretty standard for WCW. Jubilee watches Nitro confirmed. Hell, Jubilee might even watch Shotgun Saturday night. But something tells me on Saturday night she's in the arcade and not at home. Sunspot's like, damn, she's been watching WCW. Psylocke's like, what the hell is WCW? And he's like, it's like World of Sport. And she's like, oh, I like World of Sport. And he's like, yeah, it's like that, but good. This is before they had the don't try this at home, like, commercial bumpers. There's my boy Blob Herman. He's my son and I love him. So they added Beak in this episode as well. That's Beak. He's a chicken boy. And right next to him is, that's not Pixie, that's Angel. Her and Beak actually hook up, and it's a major part of their story. I won't tell you anymore. I beseech you, though, to go and read the comics, and it's a really nice and sweet story. And Beak actually grows up to be pretty cool. Is that a smile, Cable? That's a smile. I'd smile too. Jubilee is the best X-Men. The schism might actually happen between Jubilee and Cable before it happens with Cyclops and Wolverine. Cable looked at all these fresh new soldiers they just freed and he's like, oh boy, I bet I could take advantage of these powers in my one-man war. And Jubilee's like, hey now, they just got out of fucking jail. Can we make sure they're not hurt? Can we get them some food? Can we get them some dino nuggets before you think about sending them to war, Pops? I was thinking about doing the third episode in this one as well, but I'm like, golly, I gotta still talk about House of the Dragon on Sunday. I'm gonna probably hold off until Wednesday and cover both episode 3 and 4 as another two-parter. So if you like this, definitely subscribe. Tell your friends about this. Tell your friends to subscribe. You know, there's a like button. There's a hype button now. There's lots of buttons. Press all of them except the dislike button, which I don't think is a button anymore. So press all the buttons you want and tell all your friends. You have the choice to become who you want to be. I love you.